Hi, I'm Katie, founder of Pictal Health, and I just wanted to say welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Today I wanted to go through some tips, just help you feel comfortable and confident adding to your timeline. So, a few things to notice. I am in our test account, so I'm not going to be showing you any real person's data. Your screen, when you sign in, you might see some kind of little welcome notes, but otherwise, your screen should look pretty much like mine. We're making changes all the time, so maybe it will look slightly different, but pretty much similar. Uh, a few other notes: if you have anyone who might be able to help you through this process, to ask you questions and help you take some notes, that is always really helpful. We are available to help you if you need help. Just reach out, and know that you do not have to do this all at once. Definitely, you can come back anytime. I guess one more thing. Pictal, this app it's better still right now on a large screen, just a little easier to enter data, but it's definitely possible to use on your mobile device as well. Let's get started. You may have already entered a diagnosis, but let's just go ahead and add a diagnosis. The way people usually get started is by thinking of a really important event. Usually it's a diagnosis that is important to their story. So I'm going to make this very important. And you might note that there is a question here. Do you agree with this diagnosis? Yes, not sure, no. So for now, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to add that. And just to show you what happens if I say, I'm not sure if I agree, it turns into just an outline. And anything that I add to this timeline, it's also appearing in the sidebar here, and it has the same coloring. So I'm going to go ahead and just add another diagnosis of anxiety. And you might have seen where I added that from. You can add from this button here, and you can also add from the sidebar as well as from the top here. So when you're first getting started, often it's kind of helpful to have this sidebar open and be adding from it. As far as the categories go, they're relatively self-explanatory. Let's go ahead and add an injury or illness. We can talk a little bit about what that might be. So often that's something like a broken bone. Let's just put that in 1990, and broken hand bone, and pop that onto our timeline. So often that's like a short-term, like an acute sort of illness, or something that it could be like recurring infections, for example, is something that we often put in here. Let's do that, 2010. And in some of the categories, there's an option to add an end date, and the end date is always optional. Let's just say to present. And when you're adding events, you might have noticed me only adding the year. So you only ever need to know the year, and you can also guess the year. If you don't know the year, that's fine. You don't need to know the month or the day. And so we'll just say semi-serious. So I think you're probably getting the picture about how this works in general. So let's add a life event called work stress, 2020 to present, and pop that in just to start to get a little more complete picture. And often in life events, people are adding when they moved, or especially if they had some big important event or phase in their life. It could be a stressful or traumatic time. So often like these types of life events do have a bearing on our health. Let's go ahead and look at medications and treatments. Let's add prednisone from 2020 to 2021. And when you add medications or treatments, you have the option to mark it as, let's add one more, aspirin, just for the heck of it, and 2023 to present. You can mark it as did it help, yes, not sure, no, or bad reaction. And so if I say not sure, it will show up as gray. If I say no, it will be red. And then if I say bad reaction, it will be a dark red. And so the principle here kind of across the timeline is that, bigger or bolder things stand out more. So that's why bad reaction is like a bolder red. And most of the categories, a lot of the categories kind of have their own color. So if you're scanning and you see blue things, it's the diagnoses, etc. Now let's add some symptoms and look at how that works. So if we add symptoms here, so everyone starts out with a category called general symptoms, but you're able to edit those symptoms. So I've added a couple symptoms here. It's helpful, it's tempting to want to add all of your individual symptoms and try and map them out visually, but it's easier if you're able to group them. And another thing to note is this isn't really about tracking these symptoms on a daily basis. This is really about seeing your high level trajectory, like the view from space. So I have grouped these symptoms for this test person into Lyme symptoms and mental health symptoms. So let's make a Lyme graph, and I'll just show you how that works. So every time we add a symptom here, we're adding like a kind of like a symptom milestone. So I'm going to say symptoms started, and I'm going to say Lyme symptoms started in 2010. And I'll add that to my timeline. So you can see this is showing up just as a little spike because it doesn't have, it's just a single point in time. But let's add a few more notes here. Symptoms worse from 2010 to 2015. And, well, actually, I'm not going to do an end date on that. I'm going to just say 2015. Symptoms worsen. And so you can see how because I have a single date here and a single date here, it's making a slope in between them. Now let's say I want to make a plateau from 2015 to 2020. So I'm going to do very bad from 2015 to 2020. We're going to make this the worst possible. So that has created like a plateau here at the top, and then from slow improvement to let's say 2024. And then from 2025, maintaining okay. 2024 to 2025. Okay, so that gives us the general shape, and hopefully that was clear and you could see kind of how you could accomplish that. And just drop me a note if you have any questions or in trying to create this graph. And then you could do the same thing for mental health if you wanted to, and those would overlay on top of each other. Okay, I've just switched to a different profile. This is called MG Patient, just to show you a couple more features. So one thing that people often have requested is to just quickly jump to a certain period of time. And so let's say I want to just see the last year, which is a common need. So right here where you have the plus and minus that zoom you in and out, there's another button here that says view last year. I'm going to actually close the sidebar and just make sure we're viewing the last year. And that way, as I scroll down, I'm only seeing things that have happened in the last year. And I can view the last 5 years, or the last 10 years, or I can go back to all time. And speaking of zooming, I use the plus and minus to zoom in and out. You can also use on your keyboard, if you're on a laptop, you can use the plus and the minus buttons. And I do that all the time. I find it a much easier way of zooming. So we haven't talked too much about this list over here, except that everything that's on the timeline is an event on the list, and you have some options here. And you're able to search. So let's say I want to quickly find prednisone. Let's say for some reason I want to hide it from my timeline. You can hide things from the sidebar either using this eye, or if you're on a touch screen, you can use this menu to hide. And if you hide it, then it just won't show on the timeline. I might want to hide something like work stress or family stress because maybe it's not relevant to my appointment, or maybe I just want to hide all my life events for some reason. So they're not here. And that is important to know, because when it's time to share this, like with a medical provider, a good way to share right now is to use this share button and download a PDF. And the PDF will only include the events that are currently showing on the timeline. It won't show those events that you have hidden. So I'm going to go ahead and download a PDF, and then I'll pop that open, and perfect. It's not showing my life events. So I think those are kind of the basics, the important things to know. There's other tips that I could share maybe in a future video, but hopefully you feel confident about getting started with this. It's really not too hard. It's the hardest thing is just sitting down and taking the time to do it. So please reach out if you run into any roadblocks. And if you would like to drop us some feedback, please write anytime, hello@pictalhealth.com. Thank you.